The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. So as I said before, we got some breaking news. I don't know what to call it, because we're talking about an ACC player here on an SEC segment, of course, and an SEC show. But this does play implications into what was initially released, that this will affect the SEC in some sorts. Again, there's question marks all over the air. So basically, I'm just going to break down the story. Justyn Ross, it was announced, I think it must have been Sunday. Yeah, because I think the news came out yesterday that it was quote-unquote fake. But many people were tweeting out or Instagram posting or whatever you want to call it. Justyn Ross is looking to transfer out of Clemson towards an SEC school. I saw schools like Alabama, and I saw Auburn on there. There might have been a few others, but those were the main two I saw in there. He's looking to go to either Alabama or Auburn next season. So obviously, when you see that straight off the bat and you see breaking news, Justyn Ross, the best wide receiver on Clemson's wide receiver core next year, transferring out of Clemson after having a pretty much successful career in Clemson. Yes, he did deal with an injury all of last year, but up till that point, you look at his 2018 season, you look at his 2019 season, and you see me as a Carolina fan right here. I wear my Carolina merch on my sleeve. Very, very passionate and huge fan of the Gamecocks, and it's hard for me to talk good about any Clemson Tiger player, but Justyn Ross was a good player. I mean, he was on a pretty good wide receiver core, but he was a really, really good player at Clemson. So it sucks for me to say, but I got to say, Justyn Ross was a good player over there at Clemson. He says he wants to transfer out. Clemson loses Trevor Lawrence. They lose Travis Etienne. They lose Amari Rodgers. They lose a ton of talent last season. From last season going into this season, you're obviously going to have DJ Uiagalelei go in at quarterback this season for Clemson, most likely, unless worst comes to worst for Clemson, which you never like to see injuries or anything like that. It's going to be DJ taking snaps for Clemson this season. Now, I said before, there's no spoilers here. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm going to talk about why Justyn Ross would want to transfer and everything like that and just be like, bam, Justyn Ross doesn't actually want to transfer. It came out today where he said something, I think he might have tweeted, but he said, I do not know where on earth this came out from. I don't know who's making this stuff up. This is complete bullcrap. I'm not transferring. So take that how you will. There could be a chance that maybe someone knows something that shouldn't have said something, and Justyn Ross may actually be transferring, or Justyn Ross is telling the truth about wanting to transfer and wanting to go to, let's say, an Alabama next year and just go on a really, really good wide receiving core. And I'm going to break down some of the reasons why maybe Justyn Ross would want to go to a school like Alabama and go out of Clemson. I think the number one thing that I look at and that stands out to me, if you look at him wanting to go to Alabama, which, again, Alabama's going to take him. We just talked about it with the whole Alabama transfer thing. If Alabama's going to get any guys transferring, it's going to be the star players of these teams that they could just go and join Bama whenever they please. I think that the wide receiver position and how the wide receiver position is conceived and seen on a national level from Alabama, like look at the amount of wide receivers that they've sent in the first round. I think look at the last 3 years. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, that was 2019 draft. No, that was 2020 draft, 2021 obviously just happened a couple weeks ago. We had Devontae, we had Jalen Waddle, and then you look at 2018 when we had Calvin Ridley go. That's 5 first rounders in the last 3 years from that Alabama wide receiver position alone. You look at Clemson in the wide receiver position and their top guys, like they've had some talented guys. You look at T. Higgins, you look at Amari Rodgers. Neither of them were first rounders. Now, many Clemson fans would argue and just say, cut T. Higgins some slack. He was the first pick over, I'm pretty sure he was first pick of the second round last year. I could be wrong. He was very, very early in the first round. I at least know that. But T. Higgins was the first overall pick in the second round of the draft. You could say he was technically a first rounder if you want to get really, really picky with me. But he's not a first rounder technically. If Justyn Ross is really, really pushing to become a first rounder this season and to make first rounder money in a class where you're going to have guys like Chris Olave, you're going to have Garrett Wilson, you're going to have John Mechie, you're going to have George Pickens, you're going to have guys like Treylon Burks, all these different guys from around the nation, around these big time programs going into and trying to get a first round pick, which is going to be tough because you're usually going to max out at like 5-6 wide receivers in the first round. You might have another breakout guy this season coming from any which given team. We don't know what's going to happen this season. Trying to clinch one of those spots is a tough task to take, and you will take whatever help you can take to get that first round money and to become a first rounder in the NFL, because it's hard. And it is a big, big pay difference in that initial check. I'm not saying that Justyn Ross is some money grubber, whatever you want to call it. He's not a money chaser. He's not a ring chaser or anything like that. I don't know him personally. I'm not a media guy or anything. I'm just a fan giving my opinion on what I think maybe Justyn Ross, like, if I was to put myself in his shoes right now and look at just his situation from what I know, it could be that he just wants to go to Alabama. It's a much friendlier wide receiver school. They send guys constantly first round in the NFL. I don't know if maybe Justyn Ross is looking at that route and wants to go there. Now, the complete opposite with Auburn. I don't know where Auburn came out of. I don't know who made rumors that he wants to go to Auburn. They got a struggling quarterback situation over there. The wide receiver position is very weak over there. They're still a pretty nationally respected team in terms of a college and a program in total and their history and everything. But currently, I don't think that team is in the greatest of shapes. Why would you transfer to Auburn from Clemson? I don't understand. And I would love Justyn Ross to get out of Clemson because he's a good player and I don't want talent on Clemson. But it just would not make any sense for me for a guy like Justyn Ross to go to Auburn. Again, I don't know the situation. Maybe he's having problems with his coaches. Maybe he doesn't like this guy on the team. Maybe something happened at Clemson and he's just like, I want to get out of here and I'll just go to the SEC, ball out in the SEC, turn myself into a first-round pick. I have no clue. But I'm telling you, if, let's say, Justyn Ross was to go to Alabama next season, put him on the same receiving core with John Mechie. First of all, that's huge. You put him on the same core with Billingsley. You put him on the same receiving core as Slade Bolden. All these different guys at Alabama might pass Ohio State. I'm pretty strong that Ohio State still has the best wide receiving core in the nation, but if you add a guy like Justyn Ross onto Alabama's core, maybe Alabama has a successful draft like they did last year where you have at least two wide receivers go in the first round for Alabama. Maybe that's what he's thinking. Again, like, I'm just speaking speculation. I'm just talking about this whole thing. But it's just so weird that this came out in general, because why would it come out if there wasn't something going on? Now, it could just be media causing up a scene, because that does happen before. Maybe media people overreacted to something. Maybe a media person saw Justyn Ross hanging out with a friend in Alabama or something like that, and they're like, oh, I heard that he wants to go to an Alabama school. There's so many different things that I have no clue, but it's just something that I would definitely keep my eye on, because if it does happen, if Justyn Ross does transfer, he could definitely be one of the better transfers of this whole season and be one of the most impactful transfers of the whole season next season in all of college football, especially a guy at that caliber going to a wide receiver school like Alabama. Be absolutely nuts. So that's just what I have on Justyn Ross. Watch out for him. Keep an eye on that. Again, I think it's unlikely that he will transfer, but you never know. Keep an eye on Justyn Ross and Clemson, because you got no clue what's going on. And if the media is saying stuff, I don't want to say most of the time they're right, but most of the time when they do say stuff, that means that there is something going on, no matter how slight it is. It could have just been Justyn Ross tripped on a coach or something and someone just overreacted. Like, the media will do what it do.